There's a lot of videos out there that will tell you the secrets to cinematic production, whether that's shooting or editing, making things look good like a movie, like Hollywood would do it. And a lot of them are valuable in their own right. There's certain color grading techniques that you can use to get the more cinematic look. There's lighting techniques that you can use to get the more cinematic look. There's camera settings and lenses that you can use to get a more cinematic aesthetic look and feel. And even when it comes to editing, there's things like people talk about the L cut, the J cut, just building little stories with your B-roll, starting wide and moving close, or starting on a close-up and moving wide. There's a lot of techniques out there for making your content more cinematic, but I think the number one shortcut to making your content cinematic is sound design. Sound effects are probably the biggest missed opportunity that almost everyone neglects when it comes to editing and putting their content together. Now, you can see here, there's plenty of places to get sound effects. Artlist is one of them. That's the one that I have, that I use. But I would make it even easier than that. I don't even like to hunt down particular sounds and sit there and spend hours tweaking away, putting together sound effects and sound design. You can certainly do that, and it will make your content more cinematic. But the quicker shortcut is just to record sound on the camera. I don't know how many times I see people make this mistake, but it's very common, and that's why I wanted to make this video talking about this topic. So many people throw away their sound and they focus on the visuals only. So when they're telling a story, they'll use B-roll, which I think if you're watching this video, you probably know what B-roll is. But they get beautiful shots of whatever it might be, carrots or turnips or plants or cars or clouds or buildings. There's all the visuals that tell the story, and you can go download plenty of stock footage. That's the B-roll for your piece, whatever that might be. And a lot of it doesn't come with sound. Either they're removing it because they think, oh, camera sound, I don't need that, or they downloaded a clip from a website that didn't include sound either. And I think that's a huge missed opportunity. What I like to do, and the way that I shoot, is when I'm filming B-roll, I am always capturing sound alongside it. It's not an opportunity to not plug in a microphone or not worry about sound. You should always be focused on sound, because when you record it as part of your B-roll, your sound design is done in camera. Most of the time, the quickest, easiest way to do anything is to get it right in camera. So when I talk about color and color grading and color correction, getting your color right in camera saves you hours, maybe even days later doing color grading, color correction, just getting it right in camera. Same thing with things like exposure. That's also important to get right in camera. You can make tweaks later. Certainly, there's always room for play, but getting it right in camera is really, really important. Same thing with sound and sound design. Don't save your sound design for downloading sound effects from Artlist or wherever you like to get them from and painstakingly stitching them into your edit, finding the perfect sound and putting it there. You can do that if you want to spend your time and days doing that sound design. But the easiest, shortest, quickest way is to record sound in camera, keep it attached to your B-roll, and this will increase the production value of your content by 10 times. So the normal, typical way that almost everybody starts editing is they pick a song, usually because people know oh, I need a cool song, I need some music. They edit to the beat, right? They grab a song and then they start dropping visuals on their timeline to tell the story. Maybe it's a wedding video that they're putting together, maybe a corporate promo, I don't know, a commercial, an explainer, whatever it might be. And I've certainly made this mistake myself in the past, so I'm just as guilty. But I found that just watching content, watching TV shows, everything, there's almost never a silent moment. Even if it's room tone, you're still hearing something. And the basic music with visuals is very bland, it's very basic, it's very boring, and it's very numbing, because once you understand the music, once you kind of pick up the rhythm, the cadence, the tempo of the song, and you see the visuals plodding along, it's very one-dimensional, and it's very boring to watch, especially for 3 minutes, definitely for 5 minutes. Goodness knows, 10 minutes of music plus B-roll is mind-numbing. It's obnoxious. But if every one of those visuals has a sound associated with it, now all of a sudden, you're taking your piece to a whole new level, because I'm getting different visual information as well as different auditory information. You can have your music, that's fine. The music sets the vibe. It's kind of the tone of the piece. It's the feeling, it's the emotion. But the information is the visuals as well as the sound associated with them. If I'm seeing something but I'm not hearing what I'm looking at, it's very underwhelming and it's not very satisfying. But I would argue you can watch 30 minutes of visuals plus sound, and it can be the same music the whole time, and people will be hypnotized by it. They'll love it. And you know how I know this? It's because it's one of the most popular episodes of The Bear from season 3. There's a whole episode that is essentially B-roll plus music, but it has sound effects, sound design. What do I mean by that? There is some talking, some little banter, some walla, whatever you want to call it. So you hear little bits of information, but for the most part, it is one music track with visuals that tell a story. And yes, these are characters that if you've watched the show, you've come to love and enjoy. But in general, I think that this episode teaches you so much about how to make compelling content in its most basic form. You know, if you have actors and you've got a story and a narrative, like those are the extra layers you can build on top of it. But at its core, what is most interesting, what is sufficient, what is the baseline you need to hit? It has to be visuals plus the sounds associated. I think the moment you delete the sound effects, again, just in camera. I'm not talking about downloading special sound effects, just the ones that you can get in camera. Scissors snipping or, knives chopping, that sort of thing. A pot of water boiling and bubbling. If you rely on the music to set the vibe and you just see a pot of water boiling, yeah, that kind of works. But to hear it is so much more satisfying on a deeper, more human level. And it elevates the piece far beyond visuals and music. That's like a really bad, boring music video. You add in sound design, sound effects, whatever was on the camera, because it doesn't need to be perfect. Most cameras nowadays have some kind of built-in microphone, or you can find one pretty cheaply on Amazon, probably. I like the Comica VM10 Pro, I think is the one that I like to use, just as like an on-camera. It doesn't need batteries. It just can capture a little bit better sound quality than what the camera can. Or you could mic up your talent as well. You could use wireless microphones. That's certainly an option. I don't care how you record the sound. Just make sure you record it, and when you get to editing, don't throw it away. It is the mistake I see far too often, and it ruins pieces. People think that they're making these masterpieces with their beautiful visuals. And yes, that is important. You need beautiful visuals with great lighting and great color. And then they throw some music on there and they think they've made something incredible. And they missed an entire element that would have actually made their piece stronger. The visuals could have been weaker, and the piece itself would have been stronger had there been sound associated with those clips. It's too easily forgotten. And the times people do think about it, they go download sound effects and they waste all this time putting back in the sounds that were already there or should have been there to begin with. Like I said, the easiest, simplest shortcut method is just getting it right in camera, capturing that sound on location. It's very easy to do nowadays. There's no excuse not to do it other than just you don't feel like it. You don't think it's important, so you throw it away or you don't do it. And that's not a good excuse, because you're ruining your content right from the get-go, just from your mindset. If you think of sound being as valuable and equally valuable and maybe even more valuable than the visuals, and you just leave it attached, keep your sound. Yeah, the mix should be right. It shouldn't be too loud or too quiet. You should be able to hear what you're looking at. So there's a little bit of mixing involved, but all that's pretty easy to do nowadays. Don't sell your content short. Don't sell yourself short. Keep the sound attached, get it right in camera, and actually make something that's really entertaining to watch, because you're getting that new audio information as it goes along. I think the first time I actually noticed this was on a show called Startup. It was like, I think it was a Crackle show, as weird as that is. And then Netflix had it for a little while. I don't think it's on there anymore. But there was moments where they would do the sound design as part of the music montage, and they're so much more captivating. And then there were other times where the editor, I don't know if it's a different editor or someone fell asleep or whatever, where it was just the visuals and just music, no sound. and way less compelling. And as a viewer, I took a moment to just recognize, oh, when there's sound attached to these visuals, I'm more engaged. I'm more active in terms of paying attention, even if it's nothing. Like I said, it could be room tone. It could be plates clanking in the background, a little like hum of a air conditioner. Simple, simple stuff. Not complicated, but just those sounds changing from shot to shot to shot was way more engaging as a viewer than watching some pretty pictures go by with some music in the background. That's not very fun. That's not very exciting. But you add sound, and all of a sudden your content becomes hypnotic to where people can't look away. They're engaged and they appreciate it to the level where I think that episode of The Bear that I mentioned, I think it's the first episode of season 3. I may be mistaken. I'm pretty sure it's the first episode of season 3. I think it's one of the highest rated episodes of that show. And people were like, oh, it's so beautiful. It's so amazing. It's so gorgeous. And you just love to look at it. But they don't realize that the reason it's so effective is because of the sound. And if that sound wasn't there, it wouldn't be nearly as, it'd be boring. It'd be, 30 minutes of watching just food, pretty pictures of food. Video is valuable because it has sound. Photography doesn't have, you look at a picture, there's no sound. Video, sound is half the equation, and that's the cliche, that's what everybody says. But how quickly people just throw away their camera sound. I'll do the sound design later, and then they never do. Or, it's got music, that's enough. Embrace sound effects, and your content will be far more cinematic, far more engaging, and people will actually want to watch it as opposed to being forced to watch it, which is what a lot of these projects turn into. Hey, check out my cool piece that I did. Ugh, so boring and dull. Visuals and music. How lame. Add some sounds in there. I promise you, it will feel so much better.